This is Suvarchila, working as an associate professor, the Department of Computer Science in the Institute of Aeronautical Engineering. In this session, I'll discuss about the purpose of relational database design and also whatever the pitfalls we discussed in the previous session. To avoid those pitfalls, what is the solution? So we discussed the design problems of relational database design are inconsistency, uncertainty, and redundancy. I explained with examples also in the previous sessions. So, what is the solution? We have to eliminate this redundancy, and these drawbacks must be eliminated by us so that the schema will be get refined. So, the refinement process is called as normalization. One of the important concept of relational database design, and defined a step-by-step process of decomposing the complex relation into simple relation and stable data structure. So what is normalization means? We are going to decompose. Basically, the normalization is considered as a elimination of redundancy. It is, we are going to control the redundancy. So to do this process, we have to decompose our relations into sub-relations. The formal process that can be followed to achieve good database design is this normalization. This is also used to check that an existence design is of the good quality or not actually. Different stages of normalizations are known as normal forms. Many normal forms are there, many stages are there. We'll discuss further sessions also at which session we can get compromisation of this decomposition of relations actually. To accomplish this normalization, we need to understand the concept of functional dependencies, which we already discussed in previous session. And what is a functional dependency and canonical cover, how the keys are identified from the functional dependencies, closure of the functional dependencies, attribute closure, all these things we discussed in the previous sessions. So the process of decomposing the relations with the anomalies to produce smaller, well-structured and stable relations. What is meant by well-structured? The primary tool to validate and improve this logical database design is avoid unnecessary duplication of the data. So repeatedly we have been stressing upon that we are going to control the redundancy, avoid unnecessary duplication of data. We are not going to completely avoid the duplication. So a well-structured relation means which is having a minimal redundancy and allows user insert, delete and update the rows without causing any data inconsistency is known as well-structured relation. That is, we already discussed various anomalies are going to be there, insertion anomalies, deletion anomalies and modification anomalies during the process of converting a relation ER model into relation schema. So these anomalies are going to be minimized. We have to minimize these anomalies. A table should not pertain to more than one entity type. Then automatically these anomalies are going to be resolved up to maximum extent. So for example, we have employee table, employee ID, name, department name, salary, course title and date compiled. Is this a relation? First question. Yes, this is a relation because it is having unique rows and unique columns. So no multi-valued attributes are there. It's a relation. And the primary key will be employee ID is repeated and we are having course title is also repeated. The combination is not repeated. So we may consider this composition of these two attributes as a composite key. So we'll get some anomalies because of this table, which includes the course details as well as the employee details actually. So removing an employee may get removed the respective course if only one employee is handling that course, and removing a course may remove certain employees who is handling a single course, and inserting a course without handling by an employee is difficult. All these anomalies are going to be there in this previous example also. So we have to follow certain guidelines for informal design of the relational database design. Based upon all these difficulties and pitfalls or disadvantages of relational database design, if you follow these guidelines, our database design is going to be more perfect design up to maximum extent. So what are the guidelines? Guidelines means the rules are we are suggesting each tuple in relation should represent one entity or relationship instance. That is, we have to specify a relationship or an entities are going to be individual. Two or more entity sets or two or more instances of relations or combinations should not combine. So attributes of different entities, that is employees, departments, projects, should not be mixed in the same relation because of the anomalies which we discussed in the previous cases may arise. So when we are using these type of various relations for various type of data type in entity types, then using foreign keys only we will join them or we will link them. Entity and relationship attributes should be kept apart as much as possible actually. So design a schema that can be explained easily relation by relation, and the semantics of the attribute should be easily able to interpret. So what is the first guideline? Each entity type should be represented as a separate relation. We should not mix up two or more entity types as a single relation. But we may have some link among these entity sets depending upon the relationships using foreign key constraint actually, which we already discussed in the previous sessions. And another guideline, second guideline, how the redundant information tuples and can be considered, and we will avoid the update anomalies. So we have to design a schema such that it is going to avoid all these three types of anomalies which we have been discussing from last few sessions actually. If anomalies are present, then we have to consider the applications which we are using these relations. We are developing applications using these relations are there. Those applications may get effect actually. And we discussed already about the null values also. To avoid these null values, sometimes we will do the decomposition. No, null values are going to be added. And also we discussed some of the disadvantages of null values. So that's why we have to design a relation such that minimized null values are available. As far as possible, we have to avoid null values. Even there is no alternative, we can use null values, but the usage of null values must be minimized. That is, the attributes that are null frequently could be placed in separate relations with some primary key, so that what happens, the comparison etc. can be done easily. So why we have been using null values already we explained. If there are no values are identifiable in a particular tuple for a particular attribute, unknown, and values are known to exist but unavailable, in all these cases we will keep it as a null. Null indicates non-availability of the value or unknown value. And also because of this decomposition, spurious tuples, dancing tuples may arise. We have to decompose our relations as a lossless join decomposition. That means the relation should be designed to satisfy the lossless join condition, which we already discussed in the previous session. No spurious tuples should be generated or dangling tuples should be generated when we are doing this natural join of the decomposed relations actually. All these guidelines if you follow, then the relational database which we got will be considered as an effective or a good database actually. And to achieve these guidelines, we will undergo the process of normalization. As we discussed earlier, Normalization is a sequence of steps. Number of steps are there. Number of stages will be there. At each stage, a specific normal form is going to be considered. So, normalization of relations is based on certain key concepts. And also, what is the purpose of this practical use of normalization? Is it only theoretically applicable? Are we able to use in practical application? That is real-time applications when the database are designed for real-time applications. So there are three normal forms are there. First normal form, second normal form, third normal form, BCNF, and fourth normal form, fifth normal form. Additional normal forms are also there, which we are going to discuss in the coming sessions. The first normal form is related to the multi-valued attributes. 2, 3 and BCNF are based upon the functional dependencies, and 4 will be on multi-value dependencies, fifth normal form on joint dependencies, and so on and so forth. But always, whichever the normal form you would like to achieve, up to whichever the normal form, the relations have to be considered. We have to check the additional properties. That means we have to ensure that the good relational database design will obey lossless join, decomposition, as well as dependency preservation property also. These two we'll discuss. So normalization is carried out in our practical applications also. Even in industry also, normalization is going to be considered as a highly required characteristic to design a database actually. So it has to, minimum properties, it has to meet actually. Practical utility of these normal forms becomes questionable in certain cases. We'll discuss the summarization up to which normal form in practical applications we need to consider actually. Always we may be having fifth and more than that also normal forms. But the database designer need not be considered up to maximum normal form always. Why? Because we have some problems also with the normalization. So that's why generally in practical or industry applications, the normalization will be considered up to maximum third normal form only. So third normal form is mandatory. Each and every relation of our database should satisfy minimum third normal form. In certain cases up to BCNF. That is Boy's God normal form. About each of these things we'll discuss in detail further. Just now understand up to which normal form is desirable or mandatory. So mandate is each relation must be up to, we need to check for a good relational database design. We need to check each relation must satisfy up to third normal form minimum. Maybe desirability will be up to BCNF, not more than that in practical applications. Why? That we'll discuss, because sometimes normalization, instead of supporting us good database design, it may lead to the inefficiency of the query processing. That we'll discuss further. So the process of storing the data in more number of relations may lead us to execute more joins when a query is going to be processed. Because if you would like to retrieve data from a relation which is not available in one relation, maybe multiple relation, because of this normalization process, then joining of this relation is required, whereas join property itself is a costly one. So that's why we'll discuss up to which normal form it has to be. That is, trade-off must be considered by us. Whether it has to be normalized to maximum extent or we have to stop, that we'll discuss further actually. So when we are discussing this designing our relations, the approach is relational database system approach is, this is known as relational synthesis, that is bottom-up approach. Bottom-up approach means all possible functional dependencies are known to us. First, construct a minimal set of functional dependencies. Then we will apply algorithms or a process to construct the targeting. That is, each relation must satisfy either third normal form or next desirable is BCNF relation. So we have to consider the additional criteria that set of relations in relational database, all relations must satisfy minimum third normal form. So to normalize these things, we need to have certain goals. That means normalization means already we defined we are decomposing our relation into smaller relations, sub-relations. So while doing this type of dividing our relation into sub-relations to avoid our most of the anomalies, the decomposition must satisfy two main properties which are more important. The last session closing also I discussed this. The first property is lossless joint decomposition. This must be tested. Every decomposition should satisfy this lossless joint decomposition. It is a mandatory. So I explained to you what is lossless joint decomposition already. And the additional property is dependency preservation property. That means our decomposition should satisfy the dependency preservation property. So what is dependency preservation property? That we'll discuss further. So if a relation decomposition is and insufficiency of normal forms are there, then we have to decompose it. So basically we'll consider the entire relation as a universal relation. Then that particular universal relation is going to be divided further into sub-relations actually. So decomposition I already explained. Lossless joint decomposition means a relation R is going to be decomposed into R1, R2, etc. Rm such that natural join of these all relations must result exactly the given relation. There should not be any additional attributes are added, as well as there should not be any attributes which are existing are going to be eliminated. So by using this attribute preservation condition, this decomposition, lossless joint decomposition is going to be considered. And also we suggested also, while doing this decomposition, the common attribute, one of the relations is candidate key, then automatically your relation is going to be satisfying the lossless joint decomposition property. So loss of information should be avoided, as well as the additional of information also should be avoided. So whenever we are a goal of decomposition is to have each individual relation Ri in the decomposition D must be, again we have to check, it must satisfy up to third normal form or maybe next higher level as a BCNF also. So this lossless joint decomposition we discussed in detail in the previous sessions. The next property is most important property is dependency preservation property of the decomposition. What is this actually? And also these two must be satisfied, no? And the first one, that is lossless joint decomposition, is mandatory, and a slight relaxation can be considered in case of dependency preservation property. That also explained. So a relaxation. Relaxation means if it doesn't satisfy in certain cases also, we may go ahead sometimes. So what is this dependency preservation? Dependency preservation means if a set of FTs of a relation are given to us and its subrelations when decomposed, these subrelations, all these set of attribute FDs must satisfy any one of these subrelations. That means let F is a set of subrelation. We have F is a set of FDs on R. If F is a set of FDs on R, then I am decomposing R1, R2. Then all FDs of F must be available or must satisfy, these FDs must satisfy either R1 or R2 or both also. It depends generally. That means here we have to find out in such a way that F, it's all F plus closure can be considered. So the dependencies which are in the closure can be holds on either R1 or R2. So that means our dependencies also must be properly distributed among these subrelations. If you able to distribute properly these dependencies among the subrelations without loss of any dependency, then we can say we are preserving the dependency property. So how we are going to define? Given a set of dependencies F on R, the projection of F on Ri, projection means the attributes, denoted by Pri of F, where Ri is the subset of R, and the set of dependencies of F plus such that the attributes of X union Y are all in content. So what type of dependencies are supported by us? Whichever the attributes are there in subrelations related to those attributes, dependencies are supported by the subrelation. There should not be a single dependency which is left over, which does not hold on any of these subrelations. If you are going to have such type of dependency which is doesn't holds on any either of these subrelations, then we can say property dependency preservation is not at all satisfied. So that means we have to find out the set of dependencies such that the left hand side and right hand side attributes combination must exist in one of the subrelations. Such a way we have to consider. So the decomposition, if you are doing dependency preservation, means FR1 of F union FR2 of F, etc. That is functional dependencies which are satisfying on subrelations of R1, R2, etc. If you are going to union them, we should get the closure of the original FD. It is always possible to us to find a dependency preserving decomposition on D with respect to F such that each relation must be in third normal form. We have to do like that. So what is our objective? We have to do the normalization process on our relation R such that all subrelations must have or must possess the property of lossless joint decomposition as well as dependency preservation property. And the normal form, all these subrelations should have minimum third normal form. Then we may consider that we achieved good database design. So I explained what is functional dependencies, and also we suggested that, or we assured that many normal forms are available to us, first normal form, second normal form, etc. And also 2, 3 BCNF depends upon the functional dependencies. The next session we'll discuss about the normalizing relation into normal forms. 1, 2, 3 normal forms we'll discuss in the next session. For that, we need some additional concepts. To normalize our relation into first normal form, second normal form, third normal form, etc., we need to be aware of certain concepts. That means FD we defined already. What is FD? FD is going to be considered as a X depends upon an attribute, set of attributes. X and Y are the two subsets of attributes of R, and attribute Y is functionally determined from attribute X. That is, Y is dependent on X. Then exactly one value of Y should be retrieved for a given value of X. And we will represent X functionally determines Y, or we will consider Y functionally depends on X. We will represent it as a X determines Y. In previous sessions also we discussed. Fine. But when we are going for this normalization process, we need to understand three concepts. That means our functional dependencies, each functional dependency, fully functionally dependency, or partial functional dependency, or transitive dependency. These three terms we should know. Another term is there, which already I explained in the previous sessions, trivial dependencies. Trivial dependency also, that already explained, that's why. That is, X determines Y is a trivial dependency if Y is Y contained in X or Y is a proper subset of X. So that's why these three will, what are these three? That is fully functional dependency, partial dependency, transitive dependency. For example, we'll consider a relation report, a Marx memo like that report. So the report means here consists of the attributes student number, course number, student name, course title, last name, room number, marks, grade, etc. It is having this set of functional dependencies. Already explained to you, these functional dependencies are nothing but based upon the assumptions or business rules are given to us of enterprise, are related to the enterprise actually. So based upon these basic requirements of our organization, student number determines student name, course number determines course title, course number determines the last name determines room number, lecture name determines room number, and course name number determines room number, student number, course number determines marks determines grade, student number, course number determines grade. You please observe here. We are considering this primary key is student number and course number. Combination here. And each course has only one lecturer and each lecturer has a room. This is the assumption. Based upon this assumption only we got. So each course has only one lecturer. That's why course number determines lecturer name. Third one, you observe. And each lecturer has one room. So that's why lecturer name determines room number. These are all available. Based upon these things only, these FDs are identified. Based upon assumptions or business rules. Grade is determined from the marks. So that's why marks determines grade. And also grade is related to a particular student in a particular course. So that's why student number, course number determines grade. So like that, these functional dependencies are identified. It may be undergoing certain anomalies. And we'll discuss here. What is the key? Key attribute. Which one is key we are considering? Combination of student number and course number is a key. That is, this is a key we are considering. It is a composite key. Because two attributes are there, no, so that's why we are considering this is a composite. So all other attributes are considered as that is, all these attributes are known as non-key attributes. That is key attribute, non-key attributes. Okay. So the student name, marks, grade, course title, lecture name, room number, all these are known as non-key attributes. So based upon these keys and non-key attributes, the terms are defined actually. In this previous example, marks is fully functionally dependent on student number and course number. Fully functionally dependent means the attributes, non-key attributes, which are depends upon the complete key, those are known as fully functionally dependency. You observe in this example, this is the fully functional dependency, this is fully functional dependency. That is marks and grade. These two only depends upon the completely primary key. That is student number and course number. But the remaining dependencies are not like that, because you observe fully functional dependency means on left hand side the key must be available, on the right hand side non-key attributes must be there. So in these two functional dependencies, I'll consider this as a 1, this is 2. So these two functional dependencies are fully functionally dependent. That means here marks cannot be determined either by student number or course number alone, because marks are related to a student in a particular course. No, that's why. It can be determined by using a student number and course number together, but not individually. In such case, we will call it as a fully functionally dependent. That is, marks is fully functionally dependent on student number and course number, both combination, which is a primary key. So that's why it is called as a fully functionally dependent. So what is fully functionally dependent? Fully functionally dependent means any non-key attribute which depends upon complete key attribute, then we will call it as a fully functionally dependent. Another example also there in the previous slide. Another one is course name is also fully functionally dependent on student number and course number. Second one, student number and course number. Grade is there. Grade is another one. So grade is also fully functionally dependent on student number and course number. So these two are known as fully functionally dependent actually. Now, if you are going to consider the second one, you observe here, I am representing with A, B, C, D. Four dependencies. You observe the A dependency, course number. Course number determines course title. That is the non-key attribute, course title. Course name is determined or depends upon only course number. It is nowhere related to student number. Similarly, student name is determined based upon the student number. Similarly, course lecture name is determined based upon the course number only. And another one is room number is determined from the course number only. In these four cases, the attributes are depends on part of the keys, not completely. That is, student name can be identified based upon student number. Course number is not required for that. So these four dependencies, in these four dependencies, the attributes, set of attributes, non-key attributes are dependent on part of the keys but not the complete key. So if any part of the key depends, we will call it as a partial dependency. So x and y are attributes. Attribute y is partially dependent on the attribute x, subset of the x. Then we will call it as a partial dependency. In this previous example, course name are partially dependent on course number. Similarly, student name is also partially dependent on student number. Lecture name is also partially dependent. That means if any composite key is there, then the respective non-key attributes depends on the part of the key but not the entire key. So course name, lecturer name, room number are depends on only part of the key, course number, and student name is depends upon only student number. So part of the key. Those are known as partial dependencies. So fully functional dependent, partial functional dependent. So in the previous example, x and y are attributes, x functionally determines y, then subset of x should not functionally determine. In this previous example, the diagram has been shown like this. Student number, course number, combination determines marks. And partial dependency means here, this is going to be course name, lecturer name, room number are determined by course number. That is, it depends upon only course number, but not the student number. Only part of the key. Such dependencies are known as partial dependencies. And the last one is transitive dependency. If there are three dependencies are there, x, y, z, then if we have two dependencies of the form x determines y, y determines z, then x determines z is known as transitive dependency. This is one of the Armstrong axioms also. Right? Transitive property. So in this example, Any transitive dependency is there? Yes, we have. We have two dependencies. Course number determines lecturer name, right? So similarly, lecturer name determines room number. Two FDs are there in the previous example. Based upon these two FDs, we will determine a new FD. Course number determines room number. This is known as transitive dependency. So room number depends upon lecturer name and lecturer name depends upon in turn course number. So room number transitively depends upon the course number. Similarly, another one is also there. Grade is depends upon the marks. In turn, marks depends upon the student number and course number. Hence, the grade depends on fully transitively dependent on course number and student number. So transitivity means indirectly it is depending actually. So by using these three terms, why? Because we defined these three terms, these fully functional dependence, partial dependency, transitive dependencies, we will use in defining the normalization process, that is second and third normal form specifically. Okay, so we'll discuss about the first three normal forms in the next session, and we will explain, we will have an idea about the how to decompose our relations into minimum third normal form so that it will avoid all the pitfalls or whatever the reasons are there of the bad design, inconsistency, redundancy can be avoided up to maximum extent. So we'll discuss these normalization forms or normal forms, first three normal forms in the next session. Thank you for watching.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.